Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for the third episode of Volume 1 of the Winter Live series. Jose and Josh fast and curious on the future of robotic surgery. I am happy to introduce our moderator, Jorge Diener, Executive Director of Hadassah International. Jorge, the screen is yours.
Thank you, Hadassah International Robot, for your introduction. It's a pleasure for me to welcome everybody to the third episode of the Winter Live series. We have an incredible panel program today. We are very privileged to have together with us Professor Jose Cohen, Director of the Endovascular Neurosurgery Unit at Hadassah Medical Center, and Dr. Josh Schroeder, Director of Spinal Deformities, and both of them what I call wizards of life-saving activities at the hospital, at our dear Hadassah Hospital. And you know, this series, it's all about the future. It's all about how will medicine be in 15, 20 years down the road. And we have today two of the stars at the Hadassah Hospital who actually are living the future today through the work that you are doing, Dr. Schroeder, Josh, and Professor Cohen, Jose, because you are fast and you are curious, and you know, you are developing the medicine of the future. You are at the front line of discovery. And at the same time, you are, you know, treating patients once in a while and having them at your surgery beds. And as I was talking with Professor Cohen, with Jose, before we started, you know, just, you know, awake from 4 a.m. in the morning, being ready to, you know, perform all the different surgeries that you perform today. You are going to hear today not only about the future, but about the future today and the future 20 years down the road through the work that you both are doing together with all these new technologies that are fascinating for everybody on this episode to hear about. I will start with you, Josh, and you know, one of the things I learned, we had the chance together with Josh to be together in Mexico City a couple of years ago, and to our friends from Mexico listening to this, watching this episode right now, I'm sure they're happy to see you again. One of the things that at that time was really like fascinating was this new technology to have two robots, we call it the so-called dual robotic surgery, that was performed at Hadassah with your involvement in this new technology, was performed at Hadassah. What can you tell us about that as an example of the kind of technologies that exist and are developed at Hadassah?
Thank you. Welcome to all the people from Mexico and America. I think that one of the interesting things that we have in technology today, that there's so many different things developing in parallel. And one of the, sometimes it's very hard to combine them together. And we're doing stuff in an older fashion because we don't think, it's not in our everyday pathway how to combine these technologies together. And the combination of the two robots are two systems that already exist. One of them was developed for vascular surgery or heart surgery, and the second one is for spine surgery. And they never talk to each other, and they're both sitting in the same room, or they can be placed in the same room and they're talking to each other. And you know, no one thinks of having one interact with the other. Two languages, two computer systems. And we said, you know, why don't we just come and be the Google Translate of robotics to bring them back to the same way to perfect the spine surgery. So you can see here, actually, it's a nice video that what we're doing here is you can see how we're scanning the spine as we're going along. And you can see in this complex fracture, we're placing the robot on top of the patient and we're planning the screws, and everything is done in the most accurate manner where human error is reduced. And I think the technologies that are out there, if we bring them to talk to each other, will definitely enhance our abilities to improve patient outcome.
So are you saying, and then I'm going now to you, to Jose, are you saying in a way that when we speak about robotic surgery, many people are thinking, I will enter into a surgery room and suddenly there won't be humans there. There will be all robots, performing surgery. And what you are saying is actually the way this looks, it's more like it's taking the best of humans and also taking the best of robotic technology, which enables to minimize human error.
First of all, we need to understand that robots, in the general understanding of people, robot is like a big doll that is iron made, smarter than us, that in the vast majority of the films endanger us. A robot is not a doll. A robot is like a super complicated machine that was built to allow us to save time, to save thinking, to save efforts, to make surgeries easier, to make surgeries faster, to make surgeries safer. So robots are like many machines that allow us to perform today surgeries that once were more complicated, longer, and by far more dangerous than today. When we work with Josh, sometimes we have to explain to the patient the complication risks of the procedure. And we explain to the patients the complications that may eventually occur, but they are so infrequent. We feel today so much comfortable to perform those interventions with the aids of our robots, no dolls, not dolls, not those star movies that we used to see when we were children. The robots that we have today are different. No eyes, no mouth, no arms, but they are in fact an extension of ourselves. And we will show you in a couple of minutes with different images of our OR that in the next today and in the next couple of years is going to become like a big factory, and not the classic OR where so many people were participating in surgeries, but it's going to become like a multi-machine room with only the patient inside. And it's not in the future, it's not in 20 years, it's going to be in the next couple of years. It's now, yeah, it's now.
Yes. So it seems, from what you both are saying, that the future of robotic surgery is not something that speaks about what happening in 20 years. It's like happening right now.
It's happening right now. It's happening right now. Right now,
and right here in Jerusalem.
Right now.
I think that's the other thing.
The misconception that we have is that we believe that a doctor, I mean, a machine looking like a doctor will come and will talk to us. No. This is not the way. The doctors are going to remain there. It's good to continue for your children, for those who are watching us. Go and study medicine. That's okay. It's necessary. Doctors are necessary. And the robots are the ones that are going to help us make everything much better, much better and much faster. But the robots are here now. No, not in 20 years, are here. They don't look like the robots, but they are here.
So, George, let me ask you, and I'm sure you want to add to that, but just to fill with another question that will take us further, is that, so from the perspective of the patient, I understand from the perspective of the work that you do as doctors, as people who do surgery, how this is changing the whole way you operate. From the perspective of the patient, how this is better for the patient, the use of this hybrid model of using technology, Jose, as you said, an extension of the work you do as doctors using technologies to benefit the way you operate. How does it, how does it benefit at the end, the benefit today and in the next years?
I mean, I think that surgery is a long process and has many technical steps. Robots are extremely good at shortening those steps, like Professor Cohen said. And I think that when we need to focus as surgeons and to add the art into the surgery, if we can take away all the stuff that doesn't need that, that's a technical step, and the robot will bring us there. It will get us much more focused in a much better place for the patients. The second thing, the strong computers behind the robots, adding in what we call AI and machine learning, These are two buzzwords that come in now. We're talking about artificial intelligence, and the machines themselves can teach themselves how to improve all the time in order to enhance their abilities. So for patients, A, it gives them a higher level of safety. B, it gives them the opportunity to improve the technology. And three, that when the surgeon comes to actually do the part of the procedure, which is not robotic today, it's not 100% robotic, he is much more focused. I mean, if we're talking about the spine, for example, I mean, there's parts where you're putting in screws, and sometimes it goes 1, 2, 3, and some other times people struggle for 2 to 3 hours to put in something into the spine. And when you come to the actual part of the surgery where you're doing the correction, you're tired. You're not 100% at your best. And this allows you, to get to that point of the surgery where you're 100% focused and at your prime to make sure the patient has the best outcome. So it's not only an enabler, it makes you a better surgeon for your patients. And I think, is that in the future, it's in the present. I'm sure that in the future, we're going to have technologies, and I mean, the near future, it's not there. We're going to bring in more technologies. I mean, Jose can show you his suite. He can do full robotic surgeries in there now. I mean, in the operating rooms down at Hadassah, we're getting a new generation of robotics. I mean, it's not going to take the surgeon out of the picture yet. I mean, but maybe in 5 to 10 years, we'll be able to sit in the back of the room and press enter, 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 and have the robot do our pre-program. And one of the most important things to have a good surgical outcome is to plan. And if you fail to plan to fail. And we see, I mean, I know that when Professor Cohen goes in, he knows exactly where his instruments are going to go in every procedure he does. He thinks about it before he goes in. And before we take a patient in, we have the plan drawn out in our hand, in our head, all around the spine. And the robot forces us to build that plan beforehand because it's going to execute. And when you press that enter on the robot, it means that the surgeon has went through all the procedure steps and made sure that it's going to happen. It's going to happen at the time where he wants it. So it makes the surgery at a much better time.
So, you are really talking about precision medicine. One of the fields that I think, it's becoming, very, I don't want to use the word very popular, but, very, very essential and very relevant for the way medicine is developing. And, when we talk about precision, I think, Jose, in the field where you work, neurovascular surgery and, in the area of the brain, I think precision is probably one of the most fascinating developments that we see, in order to become, more effective. And, as I said before, saving more lives, because, this is about, the difference between a patient that survives and a patient that doesn't. So what can you explain and maybe show a little bit of, the future today in the work that you are doing about that?
Precision is the key word. I was I was listening to Josh. I was born in Argentina, so for me it's very common to receive consultations from Argentina regarding hip replacement or knee replacement or spine surgery. And there's always this a story about this lady that sustained an unsuccessful hip replacement or a terrible knee surgery or a so painful spinal surgery. And we don't see it here. There is every single, there's those borderline cases that sometimes complicate, but the vast majority of cases that Josh and his team perform here are successful. And I can tell that, first of all, because he's excellent. And the second reason is because with the aid of precision tools that guide him, it's like a GPS that at every single moment, you're basically, where are you standing. I don't have to remind you when you used to travel from your home in Buenos Aires to one of those places out of the city and how difficult it was. You used to ask 10 times to different people how to get to that place. Today, you just press a button and this computer will tell you how to get with a precision that is sometimes humiliating, because I feel that I am a complete stupid only by being in the position that I have to trust in this lady that is telling me turn left and turn right. I'm not even, I don't even have the capability to visit my friends by now. But in surgery, this GPS is the one that allows us to do things with a millimetric precision. So the mistakes that you used to commit once, they simply don't occur today. If you come to Hadassah today, you will see that the vast majority of patients that we treat are not from Jerusalem. They come from other cities. And despite the fact that we don't have a political relation with other countries, patients that can allow themselves to come to a top of the line center, they just come to us without even asking if, there's no, we see Syrians and Lebanese and Iraqians and Iranians, they just come because they are sick. So we don't ask where they look for excellence, and excellence today means a good team of surgeons, but technology. And in my particular case and regarding precision, I can show you a couple of images or just to show
please show, please, if you could please show, yes.
We have now. So we just can share the screen. This is the room here. This is the new room that we have now. This room has been recently opened at Hadassah. It's a neuroangiography room. It's a room that costed approximately $6 million and is the top of the line. If you happen to know of a better or more advanced room anywhere else in the world, just tell me, because I don't know. People from different places of the world are coming to visit to see this room. This room allows us to treat patients with strokes, aneurysms, AVMs, and this is a place where we perform also spine surgery with Josh. Instead of performing big surgeries, taking hours and making the patient to remain in the hospital for weeks, Josh performs surgeries as, Josh, you can explain, what do we do? What is it? What is a fusion, a minimal invasive spinal fusion in this room? What does it mean?
So, patients in the old day would need anesthesia, going in, going under, big surgical incisions, up and down the whole thing. And with the team that we have, Professor Cohen's great facility and the team that he built, we can do this today in 15 to maybe 20 minutes. We can do the whole surgery, patients in and out. These patients, you cannot put to sleep even. We're doing this in patients that if you anesthetize them and put them to sleep, the chances of them waking up are dismal. And in the old day, we would say, look, we're sorry, you're beyond surgery. That would be the description. I'm sorry, you might be paralyzed, you might not be able to move anything. And I think that the most important thing here is to really understand that we can take these complex cases and put in the screws in precise submission. And I'm talking about, as Professor Cohen said, sub-millimeter accuracy into patient's spine and have him walk out the hospital within 2 to 3 days. Most of the patients go on the same day.
Remember that when we were children, a 65-year-old person was a very old guy. Now we are dealing with 95. Israelis are incredible people. They can reach 95 years old, 100 years old, and they just feel that they are like in their 70s, yeah. And we basically provide them for those surgeries that once were reserved only for much, much younger patients. You remember the last case that we did, 95 years old lady, 15 minutes spinal fusion under local anesthesia, and the lady was discharged 2 days afterward. So those surgeries were impossible 10 years ago, impossible. So what we see now are new chapters that were never written before. Yeah.
Is that, you know, I remember, Josh, you mentioning a woman about that age that today walked out of the hospital, literally walked out of the hospital. And is that the woman that you performed surgery just a few days ago?
One of the best stories I can remember is, I don't know if Professor Cohen remembers, we have this big rabbi. He's been a year in a wheelchair. Do you remember that case, Jose? A year in a wheelchair. And the guy is sitting in a wheelchair for a year because he has a broken back. And no, you can't do surgery, you can't do anything. We finally convinced him, look, we can do it. After everyone had said, no, he's beyond surgery, the guy stands up, throws the wheelchair away, and says, I'm walking out of the hospital the same day. And
you don't remember that he's, I mean, when you look at him, he was crying, and you believe that, it was because it was painful. It's not because it was painful, it was because he started to cry just because of this lost ear in a wheelchair, while after a 15 minutes procedure, the guy was able to walk. It's incredible. I mean, this is one of the most incredible cases that you've done. I love that.
And, you know, we have cases that we do together, you know, talking here about oncology cases. I mean, the picture you pulled up a second ago is about this nice, this is a Palestinian lady. I mean, she's not an oncology case. She was in bed for a month and a half from Bethlehem. Her son's a cardiologist in England. And she has a heart that's almost a heart transplant. She cannot undergo any type of surgery. She fell at home. And they said in Bethlehem, you're too old for surgery, you can't take care of her. And her son's was looking around the world where to bring her. And he decided to bring her to Hadassah. And she comes in with an ambulance. She cannot be touched. She's intractable pain. Really, putting her from the bed of the stretcher of the ambulance to the hospital bed, she was tears with her eyes. And if we do a urgency TNR, we find what the fracture, we fix it. And this is the procedure which you showed beforehand. You know, this is, the lady walks home 3 days later. You know, she's in her late 80s, early 90s, extremely, extremely sick lady. And, you know, so now we have an invitation for a Christmas party in Bethlehem. You know, Professor Cohen, we need to put on our red hats and get ready to go.
I pass, you go alone. That's okay.
We need to get approval from Professor Rothstein. You know, it's not.
Send him. Yeah, that's okay.
Yes. So, Jose, Professor Cohen, you were showing me before something that, you know, maybe you can show. You know, there was this other case. You know, I think this was so visible. You know, that a woman that entered, you know, your unit, and can you show that? I think that's
okay.
Like you can explain, yes.
All right. Let's see if we can. Maria, how do you feel? Maria, you are in the hospital. This is a classic stroke. Yeah. Show me 2 fingers, please, Maria. The patient cannot move her right side. She's aphatic. It means that she cannot speak. She cannot understand. Imagine that this is a situation that endangers lives. She looks to the left side. Again, you may eventually think that she is unconscious. No, she's not unconscious. Basically, she cannot speak and she cannot move her right side. This was before our intervention. And this is one day after.
See?
Wow, amazing.
Wow.
So cases like those, I see them every single week. Old age, younger, even children. We have plenty of children with strokes that come urgently for treatment on the room that I showed you before.
That's really, I think that's really, it's incredible. And as you said, you know, there is a line, you know, when we need to explain the work that that you do at Hadassah, you both do at Hadassah, you know, sometimes, you know, it might sound very scientific and, you know, very academic, but at the end of the day, what you are doing right now, and I think that's one way we can measure that and we can admire you for that, is the difference between lives that medicine couldn't save before and lives that you are saving now because of the work you do. Is that correct?
No doubt, no doubt. Again, this is only possible when you have access to technology, and technology means robots, means CT, MRI, angiographers. It's a costly endeavor. It's not cheap. And this is one of the problems, because we are dealing with the top of the line medicine that is not available for everybody. Even those that are participating in this seminar, I challenge you to check what is what is the best hospital that you have, and if this best hospital that you have in town is close to your house. Not everybody has the access to this technology, and Israelis, despite the fact that sometimes we tend to complain a lot, the level of medicine here in Israel is probably among the highest in the world. Josh, what do you think?
I think I 100% echo. I agree. I mean, I think that beyond Israel and everything, Hadassah has put on its flag the advancement of technology, and it's one of the things that makes us special. And I think that there are a lot of people that can do yesterday's procedure, but very few people can take it forward to the next step and think of what's the next problem and how to improve and how to enhance. And, you know, to take the next level of step, the next steps forward, and to use what we got today to a better manner. And I mean, we've been blessed to work at Hadassah that constantly are challenging us to push the procedures forward, not to get better at things. And the imaging, in the machinery which we use, the robotics, the thought process. I mean, the fact that when you saw what Professor Cohen mentioned, he said the patient comes in at this hour, 80 minutes later, the patient is moving his back, you know, 80 minutes from the stroke, sorry, not from when he came into the hospital. That's unique. That's one of the best places in the world. I mean, I challenge you to go to Harvard and see what they're doing over there. That's not as good as Professor Cohen's work. And that's because of three things: the surgeons, the administration, and the backing. And I think that without any one of these components allowing us to enhance ourselves and bring the stuff forward, we can't do this better stuff. And, you know, and I can say, you know, I know Professor Cohen for many years now, and things that he's been preaching for 20 years are now slowly say, oh, why? He thought about it 20 years ago. Now let's do what he said to do. And in 20 years from now, they'll say what we're saying, saying, look, we thought about it today. So it's an ongoing process, and that's what makes him such a unique surgeon.
You know, I think, you know, yeah, Jose,
You
please.
allow me, Jorge, one of the things,
the stage is all yours.
because you know, one of the things that probably it's philosophical, you know, in Israel is a completely crazy country. I mean, there are people that don't believe in miracles. The only miracle that I've seen in my life is this country. I mean, I haven't seen anybody walking on water. But again, the only thing that I've seen is this country, and I consider the mere existence of this country a miracle. But even this small country understood that investment in medicine is of supreme importance. They tend to believe that Israel invests all its money in rockets and tanks and the army. No. I believe that most of the money goes to social programs and medicine, And even before the independence of this country, even before the creation of this country, the immigrants that came to Israel thought about building a university and building a hospital. And this is completely different of what we see in South America. In South America, you have, first of all, the soccer stadium, and after a couple of years, you probably build a small hospital close to it. It's a philosophical thing. As Jews, we are obsessed with medicine, with doctors, with excellence, with science, and I don't have to tell you how much everything costs, but everything is widely available to the citizens, to every single one that come here. Yeah, and this is of supreme importance because even in Argentina, from where I come from, this is not a reality. Yeah, this is not what you see there. Yeah.
Jose and Josh, you really make us proud of belonging to the Hadassah family. I think, one of the things, and Josh, you said that also very well, we speak all the time about Hadassah is about excellence in medicine. I think there is a combination of exactly what you said. It's like people like you who are not only just performing medicine, but dreaming about the medicine that will be better in the future, not just for the people of Jerusalem, but for the people all over the world because of the things that you are innovating all the time. And it's a combination between that, the combination of the technologies that support you, that we are bringing to be that extension that you mentioned. And third, I think, and that's, I hear, talking, somehow on behalf of many of the friends and supporters all over the world, many of them who are today watching this program, who are really seeing the impact of the donations and the contributions that they make, and they made and they will make in the future, into a place that Hadassah, that is not just about supporting Israel, it's not just about supporting a leading Israel hospital. It's about investing in people like you who are spending every opportunity, even every moment of every procedure that you do, to think, okay, what should we do next? What should be the next invention? What should be the next technology? So my closing question for each one of you, and I want each one of you to try to find your answer to this, is that, Josh, you mentioned, 20 years ago, Professor Cohen was saying many things, and now, it's like people say, you said that 20 years ago. So if somebody will come in 20 years from now and said, this is what Dr. Schroeder, or this is what Professor Cohen were saying, or this is what, this team at Hadassah, because that's what makes also Hadassah very special. This team at Hadassah was saying 20 years ago, and they were not only saying, they were doing, they were making it happen. What is that thing that in 20 years they will say, we got here because of them?
Josh first.
I think thinking out of the box. I think that's the most important thing, going on ground where we're pushing the envelope. It's very easy to say yes, no, black and white. But when you take a challenging case and a case where many other people said no, and you're creating the ability to improve someone's life in the future and go out of your own comfort zone, and you put yourself in a certain risk. But that's the essence of developing medicine. It's not just about creating a new pill, but it's about taking what we can for today's ability and pushing it a bit more. People are going to come and say, these guys are crazy. These guys don't know anything. They're doing access procedures and this for their own benefit, but they don't understand that what we're doing is going to be the everyday gold standard of medicine in 5 to 10 years. And that comes out of coming out of our own comfort zone in order to create the science that brings us to that point.
One of the things that I need to add, Jorge, is that it's not that we are working here at Hadassah for the sake of the health of the Israelis. This is not the reason. I mean, we are not here just for that. This is only part of what we do. Our moral obligation is to push the boundaries of medicine forward. If you come to the orthopedic service or to the neurosurgery service, you will be surprised by the number of residents that come from other countries. Josh is training a guy that is now going to come back to Nepal, Krishna. I mean, you like this guy. I mean, a very small, dark-skinned guy that is going to be the orthopedic surgeon of Nepal. Yeah. Plenty of Mexicanians were here. If you happen to go to an ophthalmologist in Mexico, you will be surprised that probably he speaks Hebrew, because many Mexico-born ophthalmologists were trained here, where we have an excellent service, and it's the school of the Latin American ophthalmologists. The same happened in neurosurgery. Out of our staff of residents, we have 8 residents that speak Spanish, including 2 residents that are the first female Latin neurosurgeons that we are training now. So it's not that we are here to treat Israelis that come through the emergency room. We are here to teach other doctors that are going to come back to their communities and are going to contribute, pushing forward their systems and improving the health of their communities. And we are really proud of that. For me, this is very, very important. The last resident that abandoned us last week, you remember Carlos from Panama? I received now an email from him and a video with an interview that they've done in the local channel, and he is like a celebrity there. He's gonna be the neurosurgeon of Panama, and I am so proud of that Josh and I were among the teachers of Carlos Candanedo, and I can talk about so many talented young physicians that came back to Latin America. And regarding the next 20 years, I know what will happen in the next 20 years. In the next 20 years, we are going to be less relevant in terms of using our hands. Everything is going to be programming, yeah, as Josh said before. Things are going to be automatized, and surgeries such as brain aneurysms, strokes, tumors are going to be done being the surgeon outside the room, as we started to do today. There is a very big company that was sold to Medtronic last year, where there is still there is this capability of doing catheterizations of the heart while the surgeon is outside the room. So the idea is that in the next couple of years, I will be able to remain here in Jerusalem and to catheterize a patient in Mexico City. I don't need to go there, as we are doing right now. Once we used to travel to a meeting, now we can sit down quietly in our offices and we can speak one to each other, feeling that we are really close. The same will happen with surgeries, the same, remote surgeries.
So we are really talking, about a very, very different world where basically technology is not going to replace the human component that you doctors bring. They can perform certain things. Eventually, we don't know what will happen in 100 years, but that's not the topic of this conversation. I think at this point is clear that as we enter the season of miracles soon, we are getting close to Hanukkah. You are the miracle, and I think you are the miracle that Henrietta Salt, the visionary who created Hadassah, envisioned more than 100 years ago. The miracle of being at the edge of and at the front line of creating medicine. And I think you make us very proud. I want to thank both of you for not just for what you presented today, but for the incredible work that you do and the way you collaborate, which it's something that I think it's a value in itself. It's a collaboration to develop medicine is at the DNA of Hadassah, and I think that, as I said before, you make us all proud. I want to thank them, as I said before, I want to thank all the supporters who made possible all the operating rooms that we have at Hadassah, and I want to special thanks to for the USAID, the U.S. Agency for International Development, through their ASHA, their American Schools and Hospitals Abroad, that funded the new biplane angiography machine in the new endovascular and neurosurgery stroke unit where you work, Professor Cohen. And I also want special thanks to Alberto and Vicky Saba in Mexico, whose daughter's name, Raquel, is at the entrance to the operating rooms in the underground floors of the Sarah Wetzman Davidson Tower at the Hadassah Kerem, where Dr. Schroeder is performing most of the operations, and we have all the robots. And I want to thank all the many donors all over the world and supporters who have made possible that we can have the technologies that are the extension, as you said before, of the work you do. You have inspired us today, and I think we are very excited to look forward to the next developments. It says what's the next thing that you will develop, and you keep feeding us with stories that make us proud, and you keep saving lives here in Jerusalem and with your new knowledge to the world. Thank you very much. One last word, each one of you, before we close.
Josh?
Happy Hanukkah, guys. Let's hope we get back to a point where we can travel safely and meet in reality and not on screens. It'll be a great time, and to raise a good l'chaim together and enjoy the blessing of life. And thank you for all of your support.
I will join to your blessing, but I will add another thing. We are living in times where, for some reason, Jews abroad are forgetting that Israel is not only their home, but also their responsibility. It's a responsibility that every single one of us has to fulfill and to respect. Israel is not just an idea, it's not just a distant country in the Middle East. We need to protect Israel. Israel is our security, not only for us, but only for our children. Remember that Israel, again, is your home. You are all invited to come and visit us in Hadassah. Hadassah is not just a hospital, it's a pumping center of technology, knowledge, and training. And we will be really happy to have your children here if they want to get trained or to study here at the Hebrew University. Think of Israel as an option, okay? It's your country too, okay? And happy Hanukkah.
Thank you everybody for joining our program, and we look forward to seeing you all in our next episode 4 and the closing of the volume 1 of the Winter Live series in 2 weeks, with a program that we are going to be introducing in a second now. Thank you.
Buonasera a tutti.